Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're unpacking the latest release of Claude Code, version 2.1.183. If you've been letting AI loose in your terminal lately, you already know it's incredibly powerful. But with great power comes the need for some pretty serious safety belts. This update is fundamentally about letting your AI agent run fast without accidentally steering your entire project off a cliff. I mean, we've all been there, right? That absolute heart-stopping moment of sheer panic when an automated script, a teammate, or in this case an AI, runs a command that permanently wipes out your uncommitted local work. Or worse, starts tearing down your cloud infrastructure just because it misunderstood what the phrase clean up meant. Cue the gold sweat. As AI agents gain the ability to really operate in auto mode, taking multiple actions without pausing to ask for your permission every single time, that panic becomes a very real operational risk. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda for today. 1. Autonomy requires guardrails. 2. Blocking destructive commands. 3. Protecting your infrastructure. 4. Quality of life upgrades. 5. Crucial bug fixes. And 6. The bottom line. Let's jump right in. Section 1. Autonomy requires guardrails, or the safety-first approach in Claude Code 2.11.183. Claude should need explicit permission before it wipes out local changes. As auto mode really becomes the default way developers interact with Claude Code, the philosophy has just had to evolve, and this right here is the guiding principle of the new update. Think of Claude as a brilliant, incredibly fast junior developer sitting right next to you. You want them to be proactive, right? To write code, test things out, but you absolutely do not want them to forcefully delete the working directory without tapping you on the shoulder first to ask, hey, are you sure we don't need this? This update basically bakes that exact permission slip requirement directly into the agent's core logic. Moving to Section 2, Blocking Destructive Commands. Let's talk about keeping your local work safe. Now, what's really interesting about this is exactly which panic-inducing Git commands Anthropic has decided to restrict. Look at these: git reset --hard, git checkout --dot, git clean -fd, and git stash drop. What do all of these have in common? They are completely irreversible. If Claude decides to run a git clean -fd to tidy up a directory while it's troubleshooting, any new files you just created but haven't staged yet are literally gone forever. Well, as of version 2.1.183, Claude is completely blocked from running these commands on its own. It will literally stop in its tracks and require you to explicitly say, yes, I want to discard my local work. And hey, the protections don't stop at uncommitted work. Claude is now also hard-blocked from rewriting your commit history. Specifically, the agent cannot amend a commit unless that commit was actually made by the agent itself during the current active session. This brilliantly prevents a scenario where Claude tries to be a little too helpful by squashing its changes into your meticulously crafted, previously authored commit, accidentally erasing your personal commit history in the process. Your past work is strictly off-limits to automated amendments.
All right, Section 3. Protecting your infrastructure. No more accidental teardowns.
Because let's be honest, if losing local Git files is scary, accidentally wiping out your cloud environments is a total nightmare. And this brilliantly illustrates how the new safety checks handle it. If you give Claude a generic prompt like clean up the infra, the system will completely block any teardown actions. It recognizes that cleanup is just way too vague for something so destructive. However, if you give an explicit prompt, something like destroy the specific stack, the action is allowed. Basically, you have to name names. You have to prove to the AI that you know exactly what you are pointing the weapon at.
To enforce this, Claude Code now actually intercepts the heavy hitters of infrastructure as code. We're talking commands like terraform destroy, pulumi destroy, and cdk destroy. They are strictly gated. If the agent tries to run one of these without an explicit permission slip that names the exact stack to be destroyed, the command is just going to fail. This simple little check ensures that your production database isn't suddenly collateral damage during a routine automated cleanup task.
Up next, Section 4. Quality of life upgrades. This covers config, attribution, and model warnings. Beyond those heavy safety features, this release brings some really nice tweaks that make daily use so much smoother. First up, deprecated model warnings. If you request a model that has been deprecated, or maybe one that has been silently updated to a newer version by the provider, Claude Code will now display a very clear warning on standard error when you're in print mode. And crucially, this includes models that are specified way deep down in your agent front matter. Why does this matter?
Well, if you have automated CI/CD pipelines relying on Claude Code, those pipelines will now properly surface these warnings right in their logs, so you aren't caught off guard by a silent model shift breaking your build on a Friday afternoon. Next up, for teams that are super particular about their commit message hygiene, and I know you're out there, there's a new setting, attribution.session_URL. By default, Claude Code likes to include a helpful little link back to the Claude.ai session in its commits and pull requests. But if you're using web or remote control sessions and you just want a cleaner, more traditional commit history without external links cluttering things up, you can now toggle this setting to omit them entirely. Now, this one is a massive time saver. If you use the /config command to adjust settings on the fly, you no longer have to memorize or guess the shorthand keys. Simply typing /config-help will instantly list every single available shorthand key for the key equals value syntax. It's a really small addition, sure, but it completely eliminates that annoying friction of having to go look up the documentation just to change a basic setting. We've also got a rapid-fire list of UI and startup improvements here. In the Settings panel, hitting either Enter or Space will now toggle your settings, which honestly just feels a lot more natural. Pressing Escape now smartly saves your changes and closes the panel, rather than frustratingly discarding your work like it used to. Also, you know that annoying Setup Issues line that used to clutter the screen right under the logo at startup? Yeah, that's completely gone. Makes for a much cleaner launch. If you actually suspect you have config problems, you just run /doctor or pass the --debug flag instead. Let's move to Section 5, Crucial Bug Fixes, Resolving Silent Turns and Terminal Issues. Let's see how this builds a much more stable underlying platform, starting with some really critical logic bugs. First, the silent turns issue. Previously, if the model returned a thinking block but no actual visible output, the turn would just silently complete. You were left wondering if it actually did anything at all. Now, Claude is smart enough to reprompt itself in that scenario to force an output. Second, schedule and webhook triggers were previously being treated as keyboard input. This was incredibly dangerous, right? A webhook firing at the exact wrong time could accidentally approve a pending destructive action. They are now properly classified as task notifications, completely preventing those accidental approvals. Finally, for developers using the Model Context Protocol, servers that require authentication were accidentally exposing their auth stub tools to the model when running in headless or SDK mode. That security leak? Securely patched. Continuing with the bug sweep, Windows users are absolutely going to love this. The terminal text user interface corruption has been resolved. If you were running heavy nested subagent loads, you might have seen duplicated spinners, status lines popping up right in the middle of your screen, or just completely merged text spaghetti. That rendering issue is finally fixed. Also, background tasks that are started by an AI teammate now persist correctly. Before, if a teammate kicked off a background task but then finished its own turn, the background task would just get prematurely killed. Now those tasks keep humming along exactly as they should. Finally, Section 6, the bottom line, takeaways and resources. So the crucial point here is that Claude Code 2.1.1183 represents a real, necessary maturation of AI developer tools. It acknowledges that to give an AI true autonomy, you really have to hard-code boundaries that protect the user from inevitable misunderstandings. It balances powerful automation with necessary, non-negotiable developer control. Now, if you want to dive deeper into configuring these new safety checks, or you just want a better grasp of the day-to-day workflow with these quality-of-life improvements, I highly recommend visiting claudemaster.net for some excellent plain English guidance. And, of course, for all the hardcore technical details, you can always view the official changelog directly on the Anthropic Claude Code repository on GitHub. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to chew on. We've seen how Anthropic is adding explicit permission slips for Git history and cloud infrastructure. But as AI agents inevitably gain even more autonomy across entirely different domains, I'm talking everything from our personal emails to our financial software, where else in our digital lives are we going to urgently need these exact same explicit permission slips? Definitely something to think about as you update your terminal today. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.